Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail, and I am joined on today's episode by Trish Patton, who is the Vice President of Human Resources at The Body Shop. Trish and I are going to be discussing The Body Shop's open hiring initiative and what it means for the retail brand. So thank you for joining me, Trish.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So as I noted, The Body Shop has rolled out an open hiring initiative. So I wanted you to kind of tell our audience a little bit about what that is and why the company has decided to take this approach in terms of bringing new employees in within the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So open hiring is a model. It's based on trust that provides anyone access to employment without judgment. This is a way we can focus on potential rather than a person's history. Open hiring also removes barriers to employment, such as unnecessary job requirements. And the reason why The Body Shop, why we took this approach, we rolled out a new purpose statement for The Body Shop early last year. And we brought in a couple of companies to help us roll out this purpose statement. And we wanted to bring in companies that were doing things differently and were looking at the world differently. And one of those companies happened to be Greyston Bakery out of Yonkers, New York. And they have this open hiring model. And I was really inspired by that model and by our own purpose statement, which is we exist to fight for a fairer, more beautiful world. So I took their vision of the model, our purpose statement, and I created my own HR strategy around that. And that is, we gain loyal employees that get the opportunity to change lives through employment.
And I wanted to talk, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the impact that you foresee having on the Body Shop's business. But maybe just some context for the audience about timeline in terms of when the open hiring initiative was kicked off, and for what particular roles. Is this across the organization? Is this strictly for stores or maybe stores and warehouses? Tell us a little bit about kind of the roles that you're using the open hiring process for, and also timing as well.
Thank you. Yeah, good question. So we actually piloted this last year for all of our seasonal hires in our distribution center, which is located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so we wanted to try it with a group of about 200 people that we hire every year, clearly around our Q4 seasonal uptick in product and getting those out to our customers. And so we trialed it there, much success. And I can talk about some of those success numbers in just a little bit. And then so what we wanted to do is then take that out to our retail stores. So the distribution center was all like a picker packer entry level position into our distribution center. And then now we're focusing on our retail stores and again on our seasonal hiring in both our Canadian and US stores, over 200 stores. And we're now bringing in about 400 seasonal hires into this open hiring model.
So let's go back and look at how things were conducted prior to the open hiring policy was put in place. So talk a little bit about what you were doing for hiring these seasonal workers prior to an open hiring initiative, and then why the shift? What was kind of the moment where you said, okay, this is we no longer want to do it this way. We want to go towards the open hiring model.
Absolutely. So when I started with The Body Shop over 3 years ago, I was given the opportunity and the job offer, but it was contingent on background check and drug screening, which felt, kind of odd for me. Like the company doesn't trust me and I haven't even started yet. So I always questioned why we had so many screening processes within our hiring practices. So the first thing I wanted to do was tear down those employment barriers around background checks and drug screening. And we were doing that for any employee, whether you're working 10 hours in our stores or 10 hours in our distribution center. So we were doing a lot of screening. And not only were we doing those checks, we clearly were bringing people, we were reviewing resumes, bringing people in for interviews. We were taking weeks and weeks to fill entry-level roles. And with this open hiring model, it's very quick. We ask a very limited amount of questions, which we can get into. And we get the opportunity to hire people who may not have a chance before through this open hiring model, because we're not doing all of these background checks and drug screening.
Yeah, that takes me into my next question, Trish, in terms of, so the previous process seemed like it was very much a time intensive one where you were, you mentioned the different screenings that needed to take place and bring them in for interviews. And so, you shift to this open hiring initiative. Maybe tell us, on average, how long does the typical hiring process take under this new model? And then as you alluded to, you were asking a very minimal number of questions. Maybe you want to tell us some of what those questions are that you're asking of potential candidates in under this open hiring model.
Yes, absolutely. So again, we were spending weeks trying to really find the right person, again, to join our stores for a part-time position or in our distribution center. And so that took us weeks to fill positions. Now, it's really based on a first come, first serve model. If we have a job open, you're the first person to apply, you will be able to work for the body shop under these three questions. So I'll go into those. First of all, you have to be legal to work in the US or Canada. For our distribution center, you also have to be able to stand on your feet up to 8 hours and be able to lift up to 50 pounds. If you can do those three things, then you can work in our distribution center. And for our retail stores, very similar. You have to be legal to work in the US and Canada. You have to be able to lift up to 25 pounds and stand on your feet for 8 hours. And then we just talk through, like, why would you want to work with a customer? Why do you want to be interfacing with a customer? Again, it's first come, first opportunity. We go through that model, and then we actually give a job offer.
So you've accelerated that process. Is this something that's, used to take weeks, is now done in a matter of hours?
It absolutely is. I talked to one of our shop managers just last week who was hiring, had to hire 6 seasonals for her store. And she said, I used to spend weeks, days trying to go through resumes and decide who I was going to hire for this part-time seasonal role. I took the first 6 people on the list. I called them, asked them to come in so we could talk through these questions. And then I hired all 6. She said, I did it in one day.
Yeah, it's quite a time savings there. And obviously that has business implications, benefits. But tell us a little bit about, this is a great program that the Body Shop has rolled out. It's giving opportunity to so many that, in other companies might not have had that opportunity. So again, I would think you'd want to promote this. You want to market the fact that you have this open hiring initiative, get that word out to consumers and to job seekers. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to get that word out there.
Yeah, so absolutely. So last year, when we first started in our distribution center, it was just a pilot. We were pretty quiet about it. We wanted to see how it worked. And I was still kind of in that I had to prove to everyone it was going to work mode. So we did a lot of PR after the fact, and a lot of media after. Once we had those success stories, we had the turnover numbers come in, all of those KPIs that looked much better than years past. So we took that and we started going out with some media on that. This year, we've been focused now on getting our retail stores up and running on it and doing opportunities like this with yourself, talking to podcasts, also teaming up with other B Corp companies such as Grayston Bakery, such as Allbirds. We're talking about how we can, as B Corps, talk to other B Corps to try to get this into what they're doing for their hiring practices as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So as you noted, you were inspired by the model and you heard from the Grayston Bakery. You also then want to try to go out and spread the word and get other companies to adopt this open hiring initiative. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, how the Body Shop is trying to get others to follow its lead and adopt a similar model?
It's really right now through connections. I think we're using our B Corp partners and other companies to talk to and through each other. So how can I influence another company who might be a retailer, who might be, thinking this model is very unconventional. I mean, we're really taking the current hiring model from an HR standpoint, and we're really turning it on its head, quite frankly. And so how do we convince others in a retail business where it's customer facing to really try this approach? So we're going in that, we're on that journey right now, actually, Joe. And so we'll be continuing on that. And we're really just trying to focus on our outcome, having proven stats so that we can share those with others.
Yeah, that lead in perfectly into my next question, proven stats. And you mentioned this was a pilot program first. I imagine there were some goals that you needed to reach to convince your decision makers within the body shop that, yeah, this is something we want to go forward with. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the business benefits that the body shop has already realized since implementing an open hiring process, and then maybe even some that you might not have yet met, but that are potential business benefits that you foresee in the future?
Absolutely. So last year when we piloted in our distribution center, we were tracking several KPIs like our turnover, the time to fill positions, and the resources to fill positions, and then of course our metrics, meeting our KPIs within the organization. Last November, we saw a 53% decline in turnover, and in December, a 69% decline in turnover. We also use 50% less recruitment resources to find all these 200 people for the distribution center. And, honestly, and from a subjective point of view, you're building loyalty and engagement for those who didn't have the opportunity to work in their past. We're trying to increase social mobility within our own communities. And this is a way that we can do this by providing job opportunities.
Have you seen that those numbers have been pretty consistent across warehouse and store, or is there any difference in terms of what you're seeing in terms of the metrics across those two different areas of the business?
So again, since we just started in retail stores, so we're just picking up and hiring our seasonals for our retail stores right now. I don't have those stats just yet. What we're doing is tracking how quickly we are filling our seasonal positions versus how long it did take last year. So we're just on the cusp of doing all of that. Our distribution center, we didn't go away from this model. This is just how we hire now. And the stats continue to be very consistent with decreased turnover, but higher KPIs, so higher performance within our distribution center.
And then finally, Trish, you talked about it, that it's engendering this loyalty in your employees that are hired, that are getting this opportunity that they might not have had otherwise. Tell us a little bit about kind of the feedback. What are you hearing from your employees about the open hiring policy that you've instituted?
Yes, great question. One of the reasons why we're trying to do this again is to help give others second chances with employment. There are stats and statistics out there that prove if you have structure within your life, within your job, within your career, that will help you sustain some of your, what you need to live on. We had several stories. So we had a couple of people in our distribution center tell us they were formerly incarcerated. They were not able to get a job because all of the distribution centers around us in Raleigh are doing background checks or drug screening. And so they were very appreciative of that chance and have told us, this is a second chance. I'm going to be here. You can count on me. I'm not going to ruin this chance. And we've probably hired about 8 to 10 formerly incarcerated so far. One story coming out of our stores, our retail stores, is kind of almost simple, but not for this person who was hired. We had someone apply in our Canadian store who migrated from Egypt into Canada, and she was a dentist in Egypt, and she just needed a part-time job in Canada because she was trying to get her dentistry license to practice in Canada, but no one would give her a job because she was overqualified. Of course, it was first come, first opportunity. She was one of the first ones we hired. She's so appreciative and thankful. And if she can work in people's mouths, she can work with customers in our stores.
Yeah, right. Yep. Those are two great examples. And, it's some great work. I want to take this opportunity to thank Trish Patton, again, the Vice President of Human Resources at The Body Shop, for joining us today on Total Retail Talks and telling us a little bit about that company's open hiring initiative. So thank you for joining me, Trish.
Thank you, Joe, for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.